I would like to welcome everyone once again to another session of our Tuesday Tech Security. And today our topic will be secure remote work made easier with Sophos Firewall. And in the future, we'll be talking about is the Sophos Connect version 2.0. So not to delay us on the introduction, Alimot has given us a brief introduction, which has already given an insight to what we are about to talk about. So I will just go ahead and introduce myself. Okay, so my name is Temitayo Aremu, as Alimot have said, and I'm a network and security engineer at Ha-Shem. Some of the products that I work with, Sophos, which I spend much of my time on, and SolarWinds, Cisco, Sonos, McAfee, and other network and security solutions. And my certifications, I'm a Sophos certified engineer, Sophos certified technician, and also Sophos certified architect. And I also have certification in SolarWinds. I'm a SolarWinds certified professional, network performance monitor to be precise, and also have a certification in Microsoft Azure, which is Azure Fundamentals. So for those who would like to know more about me, you can just use the LinkedIn URL I'm presenting currently to get to know more about me. So to the agenda for today. So today, based on our topic for today, we'll look into introduction to SG Firewall, because we'll be talking about Sophos Connect version 2.0, which is the main reason for this webinar. But there's no way we can talk about that feature without talking about the appliance that is facilitating that process. So we'll be talking about a brief introduction to SG Firewall. SG Firewall is an appliance device that is that you can't really talk about in a day. So there's a training for you to be able to know more about it and the features and what it entails. And Ha-Shem Limited is also an organization that gives that training out for any candidate who is on this call and is interested. So you can always reach out to us if you're interested in that training. So, but we'll just be looking into a brief introduction of what Sophos SG Firewall gives to you as an organization that wants to purchase it. And we'll look into remote access VPN, which is the main reason for today's webinar. Then the feature that does this remote access VPN that we want to talk about is Sophos Connect version 2.0. And the reason why we are talking about version 2.0 is because this is the newly released that was released recently by Sophos, and it has so many features and some added features compared to other Sophos Connect versions that were released. So we'll talk about the features, what are new things that are in Sophos Connect version 2.0, how we can use it for remote access for users that are working from home or that are not within the organization or within the network. Then from there, we'll look into the demo, which is going to be a live demo. I might not be spending more time in my slides, but I'll be having more time for us to have a live and practical session during the demo session. And I'll be taking our questions and I'll be answering them as well. So not to waste much of our time, let's go ahead to the business of today. So Sophos SG Firewall, what is Sophos SG Firewall? Sophos SG Firewall is a comprehensive network security device with a zone-based firewall and identity-based policy at its core. So when we say zone-based firewall, for some of us that might have had experience with Sophos, will notice that whether you are allowing any traffic or you are blocking any traffic, it has to be specified by zones. So it has zones like the VPN zones, the WAN zones, the Wi-Fi zone, the DMZ zone, and also the LAN zones. So it's a zone-based firewall, and it does not only protect wired networks, but as a wireless controller for Sophos access points. So it can provide secure wireless networking functionality also. So it's not just used within a section where you have only wired network connected. It also has as a wireless controller, but only works with its own Sophos access points. So it provides a protection also in cloud. You can have Sophos SG Firewall to monitor and also secure your resources in Azure, and it's also currently introduced to AWS. So for those that make use of Amazon Web Service as a cloud cloud service, you can also have Sophos SG Firewall there. And with the SG Firewall and SD-RED, which is a remote Ethernet device, you are able to connect sites across geographical distributed network. So you can connect branches with a lot of branches with your head office using the Sophos RED. So if you have the Sophos RED, you can actually have a seamless configuration and simulation with the SG firewall. Then you'll be able to specify how you want to route your traffic over the tunnel that you've created between the SD-RED and SG firewall, whether you want to route all traffic through the head office where your SD firewall is, or you want to have some specified traffic go to your head office and other traffic pass through your normal internet in your branch office. So with this, Sophos SD Firewall also gives you this capability of having connecting branches to your head office or multiple branches to your head office with Sophos SD-RED. The SD Firewall also works together with the cloud platform called Sophos Central, and intercepts X in real time. So when either SG Firewall or intercepts X identifies a threat, they work together to provide health and threat monitoring. So the Sophos Central is also a free cloud platform that Sophos gives, but you have to license the products that you have inside Central. So let's say you have a Sophos Central account with an endpoint protection licensed on it. If you synchronize that with your SG firewall, it gives you what we call synchronized security, whereby you'll be able to secure your endpoint at the same time, be able to secure your network, and you'll be able to report whenever any threat is being noticed on the network or on the endpoint. And it also prevents against what we call lateral movement. That means if an endpoint is being infected, you have the it has the capability to isolate that particular endpoint so that it doesn't spread that threat across the network. Still on what Sophos SG Firewall is, I told us from the beginning that I'm just going to give us some brief information about it, because it's a wide course, it's a big, it's an appliance that you need. There are so many features, but I will just pinpoint some of the important features that we need to know as someone who is getting to know about SG Firewall. So it also provides visibility into risky users, unknown and unwanted apps, advanced threats, suspicious payloads, encrypted traffic, and more. So it exposes what we call hidden risk. So with the Sophos SG Firewall, you'll be able to look into risky activities, suspicious traffic on your network, and advanced threats, so that it will help you regain your regain control of your network whenever a threat is being detected. So the Sophos SG Firewall also provides all the latest advanced technology you need to protect your network from ransomware and advanced threats, including the IPS intrusion prevention system, the advanced threat protection, cloud sandboxing. It also gives you web and application control, whereby you can decide in your organization which websites or URL are known as categorized as productive in your environment or not productive. So you'll be able to use, based on your company policy, to be able to create different web and application policy to control what your users use within the organization, the website they could access within the organization, the application they could have access to within the organization. It provides what we call email protection also, and a full-featured web application firewall. So it's easy to set up and also manage. And finally, is the only network security solution that is able to fully identify the source of an infection on your network and automatically limit access to other network resources in response. So this is what we talk about when I was talking about lateral movement. So it's able to all right, thank you. So this is made possible with what we call Sophos Synchronized Security Heartbeat, which is the Sophos Synchronized Security. So it uses what we call heartbeats to communicate between the endpoint and the SG firewall, to tell the SG firewall when an endpoint is at risk, when an endpoint is free of any threats and when an endpoint needs to be looked into. So this is what we call synchronized security. And for you to be able to achieve this, you have to have Sophos Central with endpoints and server protection licensed with Sophos SG Firewall. Once that synchronization has occurred between those two products, then you'll be able to have what we call synchronized security in your organization. So still on SD Firewall, let's just look at the deployment options. The SD Firewall can be deployed in 4 ways. Can be deployed as a hardware device. So it comes with preloaded and ready to go configuration. So what you just have to do is get the hardware, rack it, and you can start setting it up. And it also comes as a software which is installed to an Intel compatible hardware. So if you have a server that runs that is Intel compatible, you can actually have Sophos SD Firewall software installed on it. And it also comes as a virtual device running on the most common hypervisors like VMware, Citrix, Microsoft App-IV, and KVM. And finally, the SD Firewall can also be deployed into the cloud or on Azure and Amazon Web Service. So however you choose to deploy the SD Firewall, it will still use the same software and provide the same functionality regardless of the form factor. So if you are using it if you are using SD Firewall as an hardware, it doesn't mean that there are some added features that you won't see if you are running it as a software on an Intel compatible device. So whichever deployment options you choose, it is still the same functionalities that it will provide for you. So now that's just a brief introduction about what an SD Firewall is, and let's look into what we call remote access VPN. So remote access is the ability for an unauthorized person or to access a computer or a network from geographical distance through a network connection. So what I just said here, we have 3 keywords here. That number 1, it has to be an authorized person. So that means an unauthorized person can't have a remote access. It has to be an authorized person. It has to be from a geographical distance. That means the person is not within the environment in which he wants to get information or connect to, and it has to be through a network connection. So that means for someone to be able to do what we call remote access, then the person has to be connected to the network wherever he or she is also. So remote access enables users to connect to the system they need when they are physically far away. And this is especially important for employees who work at branch office, who are traveling or work from home, which has been the major thing that has been happening in the world right now because of the outbreak of COVID-19. So remote access enables remote users to access files and other system resources on any device or servers that are connected to the network at any time. The strategy that remote access also gives an organization is the flexibility to hire the best talent regardless of location. You will notice that most organizations now even employ staffs that are not within the environment they are. A company might be situated in Lagos and employing staffs in Abuja, employing staffs in Kano. For them to be able to make those staff work effectively, that means they're going to bring what we call remote access in. So you see why it's very important now in this modern day world, and with the current outbreak we're having right now, that remote access is something that has been important to organizations and everyone. So we need to have things that will be able to facilitate and make it secure and make it work easier. So one of the common method of providing remote access is via a remote access VPN connection. So what a VPN now does is it creates a safe and encrypted connection over a less secure network, which is the internet. We know internet is it's very wide, and you can easily lose information over the internet if it's not secured. So what the VPN creates for you is it creates an encrypted connection so that when your traffic is passing through less secure networks such as the internet, you will still be able to have your traffic secured. So remote access VPNs are used to connect individual users to private networks. So with a remote access VPN, each user needs a VPN client capable of connecting to the private network VPN server. So how this works is that when a user is connected to the network via a VPN client, the software encrypts the traffic that is passing. So before it delivers it over the internet, the VPN server or gateway or the appliance that is situated at the location where the traffic is going to is always located at the edge of the targeted network, and it decrypts the data and send it to the appropriate host inside the private network. So the appropriate host that is sending that traffic to inside the private networks now need to have been configured and stated before this process takes place. So that means you'll have probably, if you are using something what we call the split tunnel, that you have some specific networks you want to be able to reach over the remote site, then you'll have provided those network at the subnet to be able to reach those network. And if it's a full tunnel, then that means all traffic are routed over the tunnel to the private network where you are sending the traffic to. So now let's look at remote access protocols. The common remote access and VPN protocols include point-to-point protocol, which is the PPP, and it enables hosts to set up direct connection between two endpoints. And we also have what we call point-to-point tunneling, which is the PPTP, and is one of the oldest protocols for implementing virtual private networks. And also we have layer 2 tunneling protocol, which is L2TP, and it's also a VPN protocol that does not offer encryption or cryptographic authentication for the traffic that passes through the connection. So it is usually paired with the IPsec, because the IPsec provides those services. And also we have IPsec, which is the Internet Protocol Security, and is a set of security protocol that is used to enable authentication and encryption services to secure the transfer of IP packets over the internet. Lastly, we're talking about SSL VPN, and the SG Firewall supports both SSL VPN, IPsec VPN, L2TP, BTP, but the one we're discussing basically today is IPsec and SSL VPN. So the SG Firewall supports SSL remote access VPN based on OpenVPN and a full-featured VPN solution. So the encrypted tunnels between the remote devices and the SG Firewall use both SSL certificates and username and password to authenticate the connection, and you can also enable one-time password for additional security. So the SG Firewall also provides this. You can have what we call one-time password, where you create a multi-factor authentication. That means while at this point where you are entering your username and password for that connection, you need to provide another level of security, which would be your OTP, and this has to be configured on the SG Firewall. Then used with an authenticator, then you'll be able to get the OTP to use at this particular period. So the Sophos provide also an SSL VPN client for only Windows devices, but it creates a configuration file. You can also get a configuration file that can be used with compatible OpenVPN based clients like Mac, the Linux, and mobile devices. So if you have these types of devices, you can actually get OpenVPN on your device, on these devices, then get the SSL VPN configuration file from Sophos. Then once it's imported, you'll be able to connect from the remote side, and it is compatible with to route traffic to a specific network or route all traffic. So that is what we regard as split tunneling and also tunnel all. So we'll be able to see that more during the demo session. So now let's talk about Sophos Connect 2.0. So since working remotely and using VPN has become an important part of everyday life, the Sophos SG Firewall is extremely easy and free with Sophos Connect 2.0. So SG Firewall is the only firewall to offer unlimited remote access SSL or IPsec VPN connection at no additional charge. So there's no additional charge for this process, and they have also significantly boosted their SSL VPN capacity across their entire product range. The SG Firewall version 18 that was just released through several optimization. So with the Sophos Connect version 2 remote access VPN clients, they've added so many features that can make remote access faster, better, and easier. So let's look at some of the added features that Sophos has added to Sophos Connect version 2.0. So what is new in Sophos Connect version 2.0? One, SSL VPN support for Windows. So basically, before this version was released, IPsec and SSL VPN are different protocol whereby you can configure VPN on the SG firewall. So that means if you are configuring IPsec on Sophos SG firewall, that means you'll be using the Sophos Connect client to connect from the remote side. And if you are configuring SSL VPN, that means you are going to download the SSL VPN clients for Windows or use OpenVPN with the configuration file to connect from the remote side. But with Sophos Connect version 2.0, they've brought a capability that you can now use SSL VPN configuration file. It now supports SSL VPN configuration file for only Windows. And the Mac will be released very soon, according to some of the information we've gotten from the Sophos website. So, but currently, the Sophos Connect version 2.0 supports SSL VPN and also IPsec VPN. So you have the option to do bulk deployment of SSL VPN configuration via an enhanced provisioning file. So this is another feature that's very beautiful in Sophos Connect version 2.0, whereby instead of you doing the configuration on the SG firewall and creating an IPsec or creating an SSL VPN, there is a custom provisioning file that looks like a script that you can manually create from Notepad. So once you fill in the information required and you save it as .pro extension, you can actually import it to the Sophos Connect version 2, and you'll be able to connect to your network seamlessly without needing to go through the stress of learning how to configure IPsec or SSL VPN on the SG firewall. So it also supports two-factor authentication with OTP. It has the auto connect option, an option to execute a login script when connecting, and it has remote gateway capability probing under this configuration file. And one of the features is that it has the automatic failover to the next active firewall one link if one link fails. So this is also a beautiful feature that was added, because before you can, once you want to change, maybe you have a downtime on the gateway you are currently using, you have to manually log into the SG firewall and change the gateway you are currently using for your configuration. But with the provisioning file, you can create two one link or multiple one link based on the one links that are your SG firewall. Once you've supplied the IP address of those one link, whenever any of those links are down, it automatically fail over to the next gateway to connect you over the remote side. So another feature is automatic synchronization of the latest user policy if the SSL policy is updated on the firewall, and as well as a manual resynchronization of the latest policy. This is one feature that so many technical engineers that have been using Sophos SG firewall would love a lot, because with the SSL VPN that was on SG firewall before the release of Sophos Connect version 2, if you make any change, let's assume I've created an SSL VPN configuration on my SG firewall, and I've given all my users that are working remotely the configuration file to use. Anytime you make any change on this SSL policy on the Sophos SG firewall, you will have to re-download the configuration file to give it to the users. Don't you see that is very stressful? So that means whenever I have, let's say I have 10 people that are connecting over the remote side, and I've created an IP range for only those 10 people. Then later, after some while, we decided to increase the number of people working from home to 20, and I have to edit the IP address on the policy to extend it to 20 users. That means after creating that change, I have to tell the users to re-download the configuration file before they'll be able to connect, because the former configuration file won't work. But with Sophos Connect version 2.0, if you have that configuration file imported in it, whenever you make those changes, it automatically synchronizes with the SG firewall and gets the policy updates. Once you get your policy updates, then you'll be able to connect with whatever changes you've made on the SSL VPN policy. And lastly, it has the file extension association for policy file. So import a policy file into Sophos Connect just by double clicking it in the Windows Explorer. So this is another This is another feature that is added, whereby you can actually query the exported file from your Windows Explorer instead of going directly opening the Sophos Connect 2.0. Then you have to click import before you're able to import the file. You can actually double click from wherever you've downloaded the configuration file, and it automatically query Sophos Connect and open it in the application. So these are list of the features that were added to Sophos Connect version 2.0. So and let's look at how this works with the IPsec, with the SSL, and also with the provisioning file. So I'll be going straight to the demo session now, and I'll be showing us how this is being done and how it's being configured. So I'd like you to stay with me. Okay. Okay, so first thing first, I'll be showing us my environment. So I have my environment on Azure. So I have an Active Directory in place on Azure. I just decided to create a small environment. So I have an Active Directory, I have a PC, just a workstation there, and I have my SG Firewall. So all these two devices route all their traffic through the SG Firewall. So now I'm going to go from my own normal PC. Then I'm going to try to access these resources, because currently, if I check my Active Directory now, my Active Directory has an IP of 192.168.0.4. If I try to create an RDP connection to it, obviously there's no way I can have access to that private network, because this is not a public IP for me to be able to access it. But for me to be able to access it, I need to be able to remote to that network. And for me to be able to remote to that network, for the discussion we're having today, I need to have Sophos Connect version 2.0 in place to bring out that process. So I'll go directly and log into my SC firewall. So I'll show us how the configuration is being done. I have some configuration done already, and I'm just going to explain what I've done. Then I will show us how it works. Okay, so I'll just go ahead to my SG firewall. My SG firewall has this IP. So this is my SG firewall, and I'm going to log in with my admin credentials. Okay, so once you log into the SG firewall, the first thing you see is the control center. You can see a lot of things you can do on the SG firewall, but today our business is only with the VPN. Okay, so I'm going to go to VPN. So I have SSL VPN remote access, and I have Sophos Connect client. So in this version of version 18 that we have, the MR3, you have it as Sophos SSL VPN remote access and Sophos Connect client. Sophos Connect client is also referred to as IPsec. But in the latest version that was released, the MR4, they have it as SSL. So for those of us that might have SG Firewall and have the latest version, you will notice that the SSL VPN is SSL VPN remote access, still SSL VPN remote access, but the Sophos Connect client is now IPsec IPsec connection remote access. So don't be confused that it's still not the same Sophos Connect. It's still the same Sophos Connect, but has been renamed as IPsec Connect remote access. So now I have actually configured my IPsec. So the first thing you need to do is to enable the IPsec, the Sophos Connect, and I've enabled it from the SG firewall. And you choose the interface to use. That means the gateway you have to use. And I only have one gateway on my SG firewall currently with this IP address. It's because I'm using Azure. That is why you can see the NATed IP address here. It's actually NATed to the public IP 40.71.46.1. So I've created a dynamic DNS that will always route any of my traffic on this private IP to this public IP. So the next thing for you to provide is an authentication type. You can decide to use pre-shared key or digital certificate. If you're using digital certificate, you have to have the two certificates to use for both the remote and the remote and the local certificate. So those two certificates has to be on the SG firewall, and the certificate you'll be using for the remote certificate has to be installed on every endpoint for you to be able to work. So for this configuration, I'm using a pre-shared key, and I've provided my pre-shared key. So you can see there are some configuration parts that has asterisk, that means it's important, and some doesn't have. So you can decide to configure the local ID or remote ID. You can decide to provide an IP address or provide a DNS, but I'm not configuring those because it is not actually important because it doesn't have an asterisk. So here is where you provide the allowed users or group. So it's not as if once you create a Sophos Connect, anybody can just come in. So SG firewall is an identity-based firewall. So you have to provide the identity of the users coming in. I've actually synchronized my SG firewall with my Active Directory, and I have my users inside the SG firewall. So one of my users, my domain is learnit.com. One of my users is John, and I'm going to add Smith and Steve. I have 3 users that I actually imported. So what I'm saying right now is that this policy and this configuration I'm configuring right now can only work for John, Smith, and Steve. So if there's any other user that is coming from the remote using Sophos Connect version 2.0 and it's not listed inside this pane, you won't be able to have access to the network. So this is where you provide the client information. So once you provide a name for your connection, you won't be able to edit it. That's why I can't edit this again. So I've created a name as Learn IT VPN, and I've provided a private IP that I wanted to assign to users that will be connecting from the remote side. So any user that is connecting from the remote side will be assigned with an IP in between this .10 to .15. So if you have a radio server or an L2TP or PPTP, you can actually, wherever the radio server, you can actually enable this and specify the radio server that will be used to provide the IP address for those users. But I don't have a radio server, so I'm going to use my manual private IP that I've configured here. So you have the option to also provide a DNS server that you want the users to use. If you don't provide any DNS server, it will automatically use the DNS server that is configured on the SG firewall. So this is where you download the Sophos Connect client. So if you click on the download, you'll be able to download and install it on your device. So you can enable disconnect. These are advanced settings where you can enable to disconnect tunnel when it's idle. What this means is that if this is enabled, then I have to provide a particular seconds between 120 seconds to 999 seconds, whereby whenever it notices that the user is connected over the Sophos Connect VPN, but it's not using the client adapter for like the seconds are provided, it's going to see that user as idle, and the person have to reconnect before you can have access to whatever you've given access to. So, but I don't have that enabled. Once you're done, you click apply. So I get Sophos Connect client has been updated successfully. Okay, so lastly, for you to be able to connect, after downloading this and you've installed, I have it on my PC already. So this is the icon, Sophos Connect. You can see these are some of the connection that I use to connect to some of our remote customers. Okay, so now you just click export connection. So once you click export connection, it will give you the opportunity to download the configuration file. So you can see I have learnitvpn.tgb. And I click OK. Then I have it already here. So now I can go ahead and import connection. Then I import learnit.tgb. Then I have it here, learnitvpn.tgb. So what you need to understand about SG firewall, I said SG firewall is a zone-based firewall. So whenever you're creating any configuration on the SG firewall, you need to create a firewall rule to allow any traffic. So currently I only have one rule, which is internet access for my LAN networks. And you can see from the source zone, I have LAN, to one zone. So, but I want to create a rule that will allow users coming in from the VPN also to the LAN, and also from the VPN to WAN in case they want to use the SD firewall as the gateway. That means the traffic, the tunnel is going to be a full tunnel, but if it's going to be a split tunnel, then there's no need for you creating a firewall rule for VPN to WAN. But for me to be able to simulate to us how full tunnel and split tunnel looks like, I will create the firewall rule for VPN to WAN, VPN to LAN, and LAN to VPN. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And to do that, is just click add firewall rule, new firewall rule. So I'm going to name my firewall rule as Sophos Connect VPN to WAN. Then I'm placing the rule position top. I'm not putting it in any group for you to be able to get all this firewall, because what we're actually dealing with today is the VPN perspective. So for you to know more about SD firewall, and I've said earlier, you can always reach out to us. Ha-Shem gives Sophos administrator course, whereby to be able to explain to you everything that you need to know about the Sophos SD firewall. So the action is to accept. That means I'm accepting the connection. I'm not dropping or rejecting. So I'm going to log the firewall traffic. So to the source and the destination. So the source zone is coming from the VPN. I'm going to click apply. So you have source networks or devices. I'm not going to leave this as any, because leaving this as any means that anybody coming from the VPN zone will be able to use this firewall rule I'm creating. So that is why we don't specify anything like any on the SD firewall. It has to be explicitly specified. So I've created an IP host with Sophos Connect user. And what the IP host contains is you can see the IP address range is 10.0.0.10 to 10.0.0.15, which I have configured in the IPsec connection. So what this means is that whichever user is coming from this IP, that is going to where my destination zone. I'm creating this for internet access 1. So, but for 1, I want them to be able to access whatever they're going to access on the internet. But if it's a specific IP address, maybe you publish the server and you want them to be able to reach that server over the public IP, then you can provide the IP. But because there's so many things that they need to check on the internet, so I'm going to give them the one destination network as any, since they are accessing the internet. Then here you can streamline the service you want to allow. But for the one I'm going to allow any service, you can choose to add maybe HTTP, HTTPS, DNS, RDP, Telnet. You have a lot of services, and you can still add as much as more services on the SD firewall. So I'm going to allow any service. These are where you specify the web and application policy, but that is not the topic for today. So I'm just go ahead and save. I'm not applying any policy for this configuration. So I have my VPN to WAN access that is going to give users coming from the remote side to internet. So another rule I'm going to create is the users that want to access, maybe a file server, different servers in my environment that they work with and they need to access every day. So I need to give them an access to those servers, and those servers will be located on my LAN network. So for me to give them those access, I have to create a firewall rule coming from the VPN to the WAN. So I'm going to say Sophos, still going to call this Sophos Connect VPN to LAN. So I'm going to log this traffic. I'm placing this on top also. So the source zone in this case is going to be coming from the VPN, and Sophos Connect users as usual. And the destination zone is going to be LAN, since they're accessing things on my LAN. I have my own Active Directory and a workstation as a test. Then this time around, I'm not providing any, because I have a specified subnet that I want them to be able to access on the LAN. So if you have different subnets in your environment, based on whatever firewall you are creating, you need to apply, choose the subnets that are going to access. So I have created a network subnet of LAN IT network that is 192.168.0.0/24. So that means for every device situated in this network, I'll be able to access it over the VPN. So for the services, I'm going to leave it as RDP how do you clear this guy? Oh, that's strange. Okay. Let me allow any services for now. Then I'm just gonna save this. Then lastly, so for users that will also be connecting from the LAN to VPN, I'm also going to create a firewall for them. So that'll be last firewall I'll be creating. So I'm going to name this Sophos Connect and to VPN. So I'm going to log this traffic also none, and it's going to be coming from LAN. And my network for the LAN is LAN IT network, and it's going to the VPN. And my VPN is Sophos Connect users all my time. Then I'm going to save this also. Yeah. So now I have 3 firewall rules now: VPN to LAN, VPN to WAN, and LAN to VPN. So let me just move this up. Okay, so you can see they are currently not pulling any traffic 0 byte 0 byte because no connection or any traffic has been passed yet. So now I just want to connect to my LAN IT VPN, which is the IPsec configuration file that I've exported. And so I'm coming in from the remote side now. I want to be able to access my Active Directory and my user PC. I want to get some information from there. So for me to be able to do that, I have to connect from the remote side. So this is my own personal PC that I'm connecting from now. So I'm going to connect. I click connect. So I am John because I added 3 users. I added John, Steve, and Smith. So I'm coming in as John. I'm going to just provide the John. .0.0/0. This simply means that this is a full tunnel. I didn't create a split tunnel. I didn't provide a particular network that I want to be able to access when I was doing the IPsec configuration. So for me to verify that this is a full tunnel, let me check if my public IP. So I'm going to do what is my IP address and see what my public IP address is currently. Internet to be sure I have internet. Okay, so now my current IP address is 4071.46.1, which is the IP address of my Sophos SG firewall. So what this means is that every of the traffic, whatever I try to do here, if I try to do google.com or anything I try to browse with on my personal, is going to pass it through the SG firewall. So for us to be able to confirm this, I'm just going to refresh this and see our VPN to WAN connection. So you can see this is the VPN to WAN firewall we created, and we can see it already that is already pulling traffic, saying that I've been making use of the SG firewall as the gateway. So you can see 2.02 MB traffic has been passed in and out, 15.01 MB. So as long as I continue to use the internet, I'll be using the SG firewall as my gateway. So that's the scenario of a full tunnel. So now let's confirm if I'm able to access. I can see none of this one is pulling traffic yet. Let me see if I'm able to access any of my devices. So I'm just going to try and remote to my Active Directory and see. You can see I have connection. So let me just log in with my user. So yeah, I'm inside my Active Directory, so I can actually go ahead and work safe, simple, and very easy. So I can also try to remote to my PC also, so I can see the remote connection is also successful. So I'm just going to close this. So that's basically how the IPsec. So I'm going to refresh this and see. So you can see now VPN to LAN is already passing traffic. So if I try to reach any of this particular PC now from my LAN, I'll start seeing traffic on this firewall route that I've created. So that is IPsec connection. So I'm checking my time. So now let's look at SSL VPN and see how SSL VPN works. So now, normally I said for you to be able to use SSL VPN, you have to download its own. Let me disconnect this. Before I disconnect, let me just show us to confirm the IP address I received. Sorry, I have a lot of virtual networks. Okay, yeah. So you can see this is the IP address for the remote VPN. So 10.0.0.10. So now to try I'm just going to disconnect this. If you want to use SSL VPN remote access, you are supposed to use its own client. But because this is my Sophos version, Sophos Connect version 2, which supports SSL VPN configuration also. For you to be able to get your SSL VPN configuration, you have to go to the user portal. But before I go to user portal to download the configuration file, I just want to show us the config that I have. So I've created an SSL remote access as Len IT SSL, and so the name is Len IT SSL, and the policy member is John and Smith. And so this is the tunnel access. I have the option to use as a default gateway. So if this is turned on, this means that I'm tunneling all of my traffic through the SG firewall, including my internet and whatever I'm creating. But if I have it turned off, then I have to specify which network I want to be able to access over the remote side. So I want to be able to access the LAN IT network, and I've created a subnet inside of this. So I'm just going to, I can also create configure idle timeout too for SSL VPN. So for me to download this connection, I'm just going to go ahead to my user portal for my SG firewall. The user portal for mine is on port 443. You can actually change it, so you can see it has a different interface than the SG firewall, the web admin. So I'm just going to log in as John. Don't save. So, but one thing about SSL VPN is that each configuration file is attached to the identity of the user. So what that means is that if I'm downloading this configuration file for John, if I import it to my Sophos Connect, I can't use a credential of Smith or use a credential of Steve. I have to use the credential for John. So I'm just going to go ahead and download. You can see I have download clients and configuration for Windows because the client is only compatible with Windows for now. I have the option to download configuration for Windows. I have the download configuration for other OS. So I'm just going to go ahead and download for other OS. So I have it. You can see the identity of the user is there, john@len90.com. I'm just going to click OK and see if I have that downloaded. Okay, so I think I have. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click import. So now this is an SSL configuration file. So I'm just going to import John. Okay, so you can see it's giving us Len IT now on my firewall.co because that is the dynamic DNS I created. So now to connect, before I connect, I need to also add the firewall route to allow this access, but not just to stress ourselves. We already have VPN to LAN to VPN. The only thing we need to add is to add the subnet and or the IP address range of the users that will be using the SSL VPN. So if I do show VPN settings here to show the SSL VPN settings, the IP address I have for SSL VPN users is 10.81.234.5 to .55. So I'm just going to go ahead to my firewall rule. I've already created an IP host already to make it easier. So to add it to this existing firewall rule, you can decide to create different firewall rule so that you'll be able to streamline whenever you're having to have to troubleshoot. So you can decide to create SSL VPN, their own firewall rule, but just to make it faster, I'm just going to add them here. So they're also coming from the VPN. I've created them as SSL VPN user. Okay, so I'm just going to add this, save. Okay, so I'm also going to add them here, VPN to LAN SSL. Oh, no, SSL VPN. Let me confirm this IP. 10.81. Okay. So I'm going to change this SSL. Yeah, now I've added the IP range that I've created for those users. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect my SSL VPN connection, and I've downloaded for John. So I'm just going to use John credential. Okay. So it's connecting. Yeah, so I'm connected. So if you can remember, there was a place on the SSL VPN where we had option to turn off the gateway to use the Firewall as gateway, but we turned it off and we provided the networks that we just want to be able to access. So you can see that the remote network here is 192.168.0.0/24 and not the 0.0.0/0 that we have in the IPsec connection. You can also create a split tunnel with IPsec connection, but I don't think I'll be able to show you that now. So that what this means that all my testing traffic to this network will only go to this network, but the one that is testing for the internet go to the internet. I can do that by just refreshing this and do what is my IP address, and you can see it has changed to my normal dongle public IP address, which is 41.215, no longer 40.71. So I'm just going to try if I'm still able to access. Sorry. To access so on 0.4, let me try if I can access my so you can see I can still access my Active Directory, and if I confirm the IP address I have right now on my device. Okay, so I have it as 10.81.234.6, which is from the SSL VPN that I've created. So that is how simple Sophos Connect version 2 supports both SSL VPN configuration and IPsec VPN configuration. Lastly, using the provisioning file, I'll take that snappy because I know my time is almost up. So that is when you don't have to do any configuration on the SG firewall. All you just have to do is to create a notepad with a script. So right now I have this is just a script I've created. So this script is a custom script, and you can always get it from the internet or Sophos page. So you have the different formats for different features you actually want to create it for. So if you want to create for multiple gateways, there are some other things you need to add to the script to make it work. But for now, what I just want to create is just a one gateway. I want to be able to connect to this my gateway, and it provide user portal 443. If I want to use OTP, I can decide to say true. If I don't want to use it, I decide to say false. Auto connect host means that the host that will try to query on the LAN to be able to reconnect and to be able to do an auto connection. So I'm providing the IP address of my Active Directory so that I'll be able to create a reconnection whenever I want to reconnect. You can save credentials if you want to save your credential while importing into the Sophos Connect version 2. You can also set that to true. If you don't want to save it, you can set that to false. Check remote availability false and logon scripts. You can still read more about this on the Sophos Connect version 2.0 link on the Sophos. So I've saved this as Learn IT Pro. So you can see this configuration. I didn't log into my SZ firewall at all. The only thing I need to have on my SZ firewall is a firewall rule to allow this traffic. So, and I already have that in place. I have a firewall rule that says users coming from VPN or coming from VPN to WAN, VPN to LAN, and anti VPN. So I'm just going to go ahead. I've saved this as .pro. That will be saved as .pro extension. I'm going to go ahead and import this to my Sophos Connect. So I have it here. Okay, so you can see it's bringing in the gateway of the so now I get a certificate SSL prompt. So for you to be able to use this provisioning file, that means you have to have the SSL certificate of the Sophos SG firewall installed on every endpoint that is coming from the remote side. So I can continue, but that is not advisable. So you have to import the certificate. So once you have the certificate, it won't bring that prompt any longer. So I'm going to log in as John. Let's use 5. So you can see it has queried my SD file, the IP address, and it has noticed that this is the firewall I'm trying to connect to. So it's trying to establish the connection. Yeah, so we're connected. So I can try to access. You can see I still have access. So that is just the beautiful features that is added to Sophos Connect. If you don't have that knowledge in configuring IPsec or SSL VPN on the SD firewall, you can just go ahead and get the provisioning file scripts from online from Sophos. Just follow the guide to provide the parameters that is being requested. It's very easy to create. The places where I have oh, I've closed it. Okay, the places where I have the informations imputed, there are guides that will show you what exactly you need to put into. So I feel I've been able to cover all that I explained through my slide. Thank you. I will be taking your questions now if there are any.